All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about money habits of people who think differently. A lot of people have this backwards, Arash, and you know this so well because so many people think that people who earn more money or are more successful just have more information or a bit better circumstances, and that is not the truth at all. It's that they have completely different habits and think completely differently. So what are your thoughts on that before we jump right to the first question?
Everything in life is about habits. Like, I was on a podcast and they were asking me about genius, and I told them genius has to be constructed, and it's constructed by habits, not genetics. See, most people think, oh, this person just has it. Everybody, if you look at what your results are, every area of your life, those are all directed to your habits. Money habits, thinking habits, relationships habits. So as you build one great habit on top of the other, in a few years, you're going to have an extraordinary life.
Yeah. So when you were, go back 20 years, when you were in not a great circumstance, you were in a lot of debt, you had an eviction notice on your door, your back was against the wall. What was the first habit that you had to break or the first habit that you had to create success?
Well, before I could create a habit, I remember it like it was yesterday. The first philosophy that I created, the first real big decision, was I wasn't going to let anyone control my income again. I was so angry at myself at that time because I worked my way from the bottom to the top, but I was not in control. They were in control. And I remember saying, I'm never letting anyone control my income again. That was the first thing I did. And that's why I never took the new offer, because I would have been in the same cycle of doom. But the first habit that I created after that was betting on myself. That was the first thing I did. I don't believe anyone wins. No one's shown me that in my life experience in 49 years who hasn't created a habit of betting on themselves. Mm-hmm. Most people are betting on the outside. They're betting on the circumstance. They're betting on their past, but they're not betting on what they really want. That's what I did. And everything changed almost overnight. It wasn't overnight, but it almost seemed overnight because it wasn't 10 years later. Within 6 months, my life completely transformed. And I always look back at that decision that I made when it seemed insane, when it seemed illogical, but I was firm in it. That was my philosophy. And that philosophy has changed the direction of my life, that I was never going to let anyone dictate what I was going to earn.
Okay, one thing I love that you said so much, you said, I bet on what I truly wanted. And that looks different for everybody because what you want versus what I want versus what somebody who's listening to this wants looks different. And so they have to stop betting on what they think they can get or what they think somebody else wants for them and truly decide, what do I want, and go for it.
That's the challenge most people have. They never decide what they want. They have a vague description. So I'll ask people, well, tell me what you want. And they'll go around it. And so they're giving their mind no direction. So their mind just defaults back to what they've always gotten. Mm-hmm. See, we got to understand our mind so well. Our mind is operating 24/7, 365 days a year. But our mind, on a subconscious level, is a storehouse of information. But it will go where we put our focus. So if I put my focus on what is, I'm going to keep creating more things that repeat that. But when we put our focus on this is what I want, all of a sudden, everything starts happening.
Yep. Arash, whenever we say money habits of people who think differently, you talk a lot about a money blueprint. What is that and where does it even come from?
We have a blueprint is exactly how we run our life. It's running based on a program. That's our blueprint. But the money blueprint is your most authentic, true story, whether you like it or not, on a subconscious level around money. We have all these stories going around. Today, you and I are going to have 200, 300 stories. We don't even realize it, but everything is related to a story. So if we're going to change our financial blueprint, we have to change our story around money. And we have to go to places we may not want to go to. We have to admit some of the things that were imprinted in us that had none of it came from us. It came from your parents. It came from their parents. It came from people in your peer groups, and that keeps creating the story deeper and deeper. Very few people have a good story around money because they don't understand money. They think money is the cause. Money is the effect. So they're working at it backwards, but all you have to do is change your story, and that just takes repetition. That takes being in control of your mind instead of reacting to what is. That's what most people are doing. And going back to my story, like when I had that foreclosure sticker on my garage, I could have let that control me. I didn't let it control me. I let it fuel me. So what did I do? I changed the story. Mm-hmm. And you think I was proud of that? I wasn't proud of it. I was upset with myself, but I didn't stay upset. And that's how my story changed. Anyone can change their story. If you want more money, the rule is this: decide you're going to earn a lot of money. People never decide because they're afraid to put themselves on the hook. But decision is a habit. So we have to understand this. Grinding, that's what people go to. They say, you know what, I'm just going to work harder, so I'm going to earn more money. That is the worst thing you could do. Yeah. You've got to start changing the way you're doing things if you're going to earn more money.
In our coaching programs, we have people from all around the world, all different backgrounds, all different industries, expertise, careers, all different circumstances, a lot of people, right? And high achievers. When you look at those people and you look at the most successful ones, is there one money habit that all of the high achievers have that maybe no one talks about or realizes?
Well, number one, they decide before they're ready. And every single person I've coached, they wanted more, but they had never done it. They went through coach after coach after coach, and then they got to us, and we show them exactly what to do, and now they're doing extraordinary things. I was just, before we came in and record, I was on a call with a gentleman I sat down in Paris just a month ago, and he said, oh my God, I got to thank you because I have 10 new clients. It's my best month ever. And I said, well, thank you. Don't thank me. And he said, I do exactly what you tell me to do. And the funny thing, when I sat down with him in Paris, I told him this. I said, now that you've decided to come work with me, the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to get what you invested back if you'll do what I tell you. We blew that out of the water in 2 weeks. Yeah. Why? Because he was willing to change. People want more, but they're wanting to stay the same. It doesn't work. Money is just a mirror. And what is it a mirror of? It's a mirror of our self-worth. So until I raise my worthiness and really believe in myself, then I'm not going to be able to attract more. That's just a rule. We attract what we believe on a subconscious level, not what we believe on an intellectual level. So the funny thing is, when you learn and understand money, money's the easiest thing to earn. So money's not hard to earn, but it takes discipline to keep it. So there's a lot of people earning a lot of money, but they have very little to show. Once again, that's self-worth. They started creating better habits, but they haven't created the discipline around it. And you have to build discipline.
What is the difference between a habit and a standard? And since we're talking specifically about money today, you can relate the habit and standard to money.
A habit is a repeated action. That's what creates a habit. Repeated thought, habit. A standard is a line you refuse to live below.
So give me an example of those two as it relates to money for someone.
Somebody who currently is living not the way they want to live, they keep repeating the same thoughts, same feelings, same action, that's a habit. Then the same person says, I'm done. That's what I did. I'm done. So the standard is what changed my life. The habit didn't change my life. The standard then changed the habit. So I had a reason and I had a measuring point that I was never going to go under.
So habits follow standard?
Follow standard, yeah. So we have all these unconscious habits. Why? Because we have all these unconscious standards. The man or woman that starts really creating standards for themselves, their whole life changes.
Okay, I have a question on this then. So you see someone winning. They've clearly created a high standard and good habits. Something knocks them off track. They lose the habits. Is that because the standard dropped? Or did the habits drop the standard, or did the standard drop the habits?
A habit can always be negotiated on a bad day. A standard cannot.
Okay.
A standard is who we are on our worst day, not our best day. That's why standards are the most important thing. So the standard drives the habits. The habits don't drive the standards. Yeah. Eventually, the habits and the standards are going to be aligned, and then you're going to be unstoppable.
That makes sense. Okay, what is a money habit that looks productive but actually keeps people stuck?
Grinding. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to keep doing the same thing, but I'm going to work more hours. I'm going to grip my teeth. I'm going to work tight.
Yeah.
That is what keeps people in the same cycle, and then it leads to burnout.
So if someone's listening to this thinking, that's me, I do that, what's the remedy?
You have to be aware of it now. Now that you heard it, you can't keep repeating it. So we can't keep repeating the same things expecting different results. So you have to change your understanding. Understanding is the key to freedom. So you've got to start changing your understanding around it and say, I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to develop a great self-image around money. I'm going to develop an enormous picture of myself, not as I am, but as I can be.
Hey, really quickly, and then we're going to get right back to the episode. Podcast listeners are some of the most thoughtful people that we hear from. When someone spends time listening to long-form conversations like this, it usually means that they are serious about their growth and they're looking for deeper answers. Many of our best clients started exactly where you are right now. They were listening to the podcast, applying the ideas that we shared, and eventually realized that they wanted to work with us at a closer level of mentorship and guidance and proximity. If that is something that you've been thinking about, I invite you to reach out to us. Send us an email, hello@voscoachingco.com, and introduce yourself. Let us know what you're currently working on and what you want to achieve over the next couple of months or years, and our team will review that message and connect with you if we believe that we can help you move forward. Again, that email is hello@voscoachingco.com. All right, right back to the episode.
And here's the reason people are doing this. They're constantly coming from the physical side of their personality. I'm going to work more hours. Mm-hmm. I'm going to force. When we're at our best at anything, we're coming from the spiritual side of our personality. So how do you tap into the spiritual side? Let's say somebody's listening to this right now. They are just stuck financially. But they're like, you know what? I want to make the same type of decision that you made, where you're like, I don't want anyone to control my income again. So what you want to do, if you're going to tap into the spiritual side, now you start seeing with your spiritual eyes, not your physical eyes. So you start seeing what you want to see. See, our physical eyes are liars. They're just telling us what happened in the past. They're not telling us about what's possible. So we have to see with our spiritual eyes. So we see all day long what we want to see. We want to hear with our spiritual ears. We want to hear what we would hear, somebody congratulating us. Then we want to touch what we would touch. So you make it into this game. Now, in the beginning, your mind is going to be like, you are lying to yourself. You have to understand you've been lying to yourself your whole life working against it. So you're not lying to yourself. It's training. You're practicing how you're going to live in the future. But that's where magic happens. And I don't mean woo-woo magic. This is happening all the time when you are actually coming from the essence of who you are. You and I are spiritual beings living in a physical body, yet we think we have to force everything. And that's because most people, that's why only 2% of people are winning, 98% of people are struggling. And that number should be reversed with the potential we have inside of us. But they're doing it because they're working with constant worry, doubt, and fear. Every decision is based on fear.
Do you think that there are some people, I'm going to assume yes, but do you think there are some people, not just some, probably a lot of people out there, and maybe even listening to this right now, who have never consciously or deliberately looked at their money habits, their money standard, the way that they think about money? And like you just said, instead of creating what they want, thinking about money, believing, feeling all these things, they're just defaulting to fear and worry and doubt.
Yes, but most people don't believe they can earn more.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Because they don't see themselves accurately.
Is it because they're not thinking?
They've never been taught this.
Yeah.
So unless you're taught it, Like, I didn't all of a sudden do it. Like, I looked for it. I say this story at our seminars all the time. When I got into this material, I got into it because I was in such a bad financial spot. And the funny thing is, the books that I got and studied, like Think and Grow Rich, Science of Getting Rich, You Too Can Be Prosperous, like I can name all these books. I thought I was studying them to increase my money. I've never stopped studying them 21 years later. So what I thought I was coming in for, I was coming in for the exact opposite. Because once you get this, you can never unget it.
Yeah.
And that's when the game changes.
So if someone listening to this has never tracked their money or set any sort of money habit or money standard in their life, what is the first thing they should be doing?
Well, you got to understand, what is my current story? So what you want to do is audit yourself. You want to audit, what are my negative triggers to money? That is teaching us a pattern. Once we get a pattern, we have to expose it. Once we expose it, we can change it. So let me give you an example of a pattern. I'm afraid to spend on this. What if it doesn't come back? That would be a negative pattern because you're working against the law. One of the key laws of money is circulation. You've got to get it circulating. The tighter you hold, that grip is so tight, you're cutting off the flow. So then you change the story. Every time you spend money, you're at the spiritual altar. You want to speak it into existence. You want to speak, I go get a coffee at Starbucks. And you want to start getting in the habit of speaking it. Once I spend $4 or $5, whatever it is, it's coming back to me tenfold. Well, you're not going to have to do that the rest of your life. Once you have a great money relationship, it's not going to happen. People who have a wealth identity, they're not speaking it. It's like at 2 p.m., they don't even talk about money.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you have to start changing your relationship. So you audit it. You have to start understanding that. What are my negative money patterns? Am I the person who resists even talking about money? Like, I think money is bad. Money's neither good nor bad. Money's a great servant, but most people are slaves to money. Mm-hmm. But one of the key attitudes we have to have around money is it's normal. You have to get comfortable with the idea of money. Until you get comfortable with the idea of money, you're not going to have more money in your life.
All right, I'm going to ask you this one, both for you personally and for the clients that you've worked with. How long after setting new money habits can you expect to start seeing results?
Depends, based on your programming. Like, for everybody, it's different. I gave you an example of my client, Joel, which was right away. Why? Because he accepted the idea. You have to accept it. You have to, when I say decide, like, it's already done in your mind. If you want more money, you've got to see yourself already in possession of the money. And that's what most people don't do. They see their current results replaying over and over in their head. So they need to start auto-suggesting. Auto-suggestion, for anyone who's not been a listener of ours, is a suggestion from yourself to yourself. And you do it over and over with repetition, with you already in possession of it. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am already earning $50,000 or more every month, and I love it. You keep doing it over and over. In 30 days, it's going to be a part of your consciousness. Mm-hmm. And if you do that and put an alarm on your phone every 3 hours, it's reminding you to go back to, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? But in 30 days, it's going to be a part of your consciousness. Now, I didn't say in 30 days you're going to have the money. Then the next step happens. Once it's a part of our consciousness, guess what? We're going to start attracting ideas, opportunities. People are going to start coming into our life. Our job is then to act on it. See, we can't just say something and not act, but you're going to get opportunities, and that's finishing the whole creation process.
So good. Arash, there's a lot of money and wealth strategies out there. A lot of people talking about different strategies. Will any of them work if you don't change your money standard?
No. Money, like everything, it's a consciousness. Consciousness means we have to think, feel, and act from that state. It's always so funny to me when people say, now wealth came. Wealth never left. It comes from inside. It's not like all of a sudden in the future it starts coming. No, you activated it. You came into this life wealthy, and you're going to leave the life either poor or wealthy, depending on your consciousness. But we've got to understand this. We have 2 operating systems every day, every single one of us. that we choose from. We're either choosing from the survival identity, I have to wait before I believe it, or the wealth identity. I'm gonna act, and the wealthiest decision you and I are ever gonna make, everyone's ever gonna make, is the decision before evidence. But most people, even high performers, that's why they're not fulfilled. And that's why they spike and then go down, is they're constantly striving. They're constantly not in control of their mind. And because of that, they're operating from the survival identity. There is only one identity that's going to create abundance in terms of money, and that's the wealth identity. So you've got to create the habits of a wealth identity that's decision before evidence. They're acting on ideas right away and really doing the work that nobody sees behind the scenes of you reprogramming your consciousness. These are critical if you want to earn more money. But the greatest secret on top of this is you got to add more value. This doesn't work. The greatest secret in life is adding more value. How can I continue to add more value? Well, if you have a poverty consciousness, you're not going to add value. People are going to listen to that. No, that's not true. I promise you. I promise you it is. Yeah. Because you're going to get ideas on that frequency of poverty. Now, it doesn't mean you're not a good person. I'm not saying that. But when you start accelerating your growth, you watch the ideas that you're going to start acting on.
So good. All right, final thoughts on money habits of people who think differently.
Ask me that one more time.
Final thoughts on money habits of people who think differently.
It is a lot easier than people think. And every one of you listening to this, watching this, you are a lot closer to what you want if you'll make a decision. And you're a lot closer than your senses are telling you.
So good. All right. Thank you, Arash. Thanks, everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and leave us a rating and review. More importantly, if you want to change your money habits and you want help doing it, send us an email, hello@voscoachingco.com. We've got lots of things that could help you along the way. Keep listening, share this with your friends and family, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the 7 Figure Standard podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7 Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachingco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7 Figure Standard.